Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course, and as promised, this is part 2 of the IndyCar preview for the year. We'll also have our St. Pete predictions too, but we got to go through half the team. So if you caught part 1, by the way, that's Colin Kulpa, of course, our IndyCar expert here on the channel. So if you caught part 1, we talked about Andretti Autosport, Ganassi, Arrow McLaren, and AJ Foyt Racing and Dale Coyne Racing. Today we'll talk about the rest of the teams. Let's start with the Dry Reinbold team. But first off, how are you, bud?
Great. How are you?
It's race week, so that's really good.
Yep, can't ask for more than that. But yeah, let's jump right in. So Dry Reinbold, I'm including them this year because they are contenders at Indianapolis, stealthy contenders. They have 2 years in a row they've gotten the top 10, and there's no reason why they can't put a car in the top 10 this year. Stephen Wilson is their driver, partnering with Don Cusick and Cusick Motorsports. Stephen almost won in 2018. People forget this on a fuel mileage gamble.
Yeah,
didn't quite work out, just a little bit short. But that guy can wheel that thing when he gets the funding, and he'll be there at Indianapolis this year. And it's looking like we won't have a bump day as it is. The closest we'll get is if Dry Reinbold has a second car. They have done this in the past in recent years. I think Sage Karam, Santino Ferrucci have kind of filled this role. I don't believe that's happening. I saw Sage Karam's dad posting that he might have funding too this week. So keep an eye out there. But if another car pops up for the Indy 500, because we know we need at least one more to fill the field of 33, it might come from Dreyer and Reinbold.
No. You need 33 cars in that field. So we'll have to check in on that. And obviously we'll talk more about this team when May rolls around. All right, Ed Carpenter Racing. Let's talk about them. A lot of big expectations with this team. Of course, Connor Daly's back in the 20, Rinus VeeKay in the 21, and then we'll obviously see the team owner at all of the ovals.
Yes, the theme of today's teams, apart from one, maybe two, is high expectations, and not all of them are going to achieve it. Some of these teams are going to disappoint this year. Ed Carpenter needs to take a step up this year. Well, himself, sure, but the team. All 3 cars are now sponsored by BitNile, the sponsor that Connor Daly brought in last year through just exquisite networking at a night in Vegas, as it turns out. But for now, the money is still flowing through this crypto company. So all 3 cars are sponsored. Connor Daly had kind of a mediocre year last year. He had his big moments at Indianapolis, which he's had for 2 years in a row. But the rest of the season, he was just kind of there, kind of pedestrian performances. And let's be real, in the hyper-competitive IndyCar grid, pedestrian performances don't get you very far. He's got the money to stay in for at least a couple more years, we know that. But he really needs to take a step up. His teammate, Rinus VeeKay, had some great performances, but it was a step back from 2021, where he won a couple races, or at least one. Last year, his best finish was only a 3rd place at Barber, a race that he had won until some tire issues came into effect at the end. He basically drove him off the car. He needs some more podiums this year, straight up. Like, Rinus VeeKay is a really great race car driver, and through just like mechanical issues, kind of bad luck, and kind of overdriving his car to the point where it loses pace, he's kind of taken himself out of races. So if he can take a step up, he could be a hot free agent prospect once the off season and silly season hits, since that comes so much earlier than it used to, it feels like now. But look for Rinus VeeKay to take a step up and maybe a step out of Ed Carpenter Racing if he's that good. And Ed Carpenter, of course, in the 500, I mentioned this in my preview, which you can read online. He's taken a step back in his oval performances. He still qualifies very well at Indianapolis, but he used to be a car that could really contend when he did this part-time oval schedule. And it seems like he's more in like a 15th, 20th range now. So I'm very curious to see if he can kind of take a step up to the next level on the ovals this year.
Yeah. All right. I guess I think Meyer Shank is up next.
Juncos Holland.
Right, that's right.
Next. That's right. And they have expanded to 2 cars this year. We have the 77 of Callum Ilott and the 78 of Agustin Canapino. So Callum, the number 77, he had some really great rookie performances last year. And just, little rookie mistakes, nothing to be ashamed of. He had a really great year, really exceeding expectations. And I think he'll do the same this year. He missed a race last year due to injury. People forget he broke his wrist or hand in the Indy 500 and missed Detroit, but he still had a very competitive campaign. I think he should hopefully do all 17 races this year, barring injury. We don't wish that on anyone. So if he can run all 17 races, he should improve dramatically because now he's got that 1 year under his belt. And we've seen him recently. I was reading Nathan Brown on the Indy Star kind of cover some of the preview topics at more general IndyCar. Second year drivers are really popping off in recent years in IndyCar, and that fits Callum Ilott perfectly. So hopefully to see him on some podiums this year, that'd be really cool. If anything, more top tens from that man. And the 78, Canapino won Argentinian Sportsman of the Year, an award that Lionel Messi has won the last 2 years. Canapino won this in 2018. He's fast. I think people underestimated him, because no one really knew who he was. He kind of knows Juncos through an Argentinian relationship. They're both from Argentina, so like very strong connections there. And he was really fast in testing for a rookie coming from Argentinian stock cars. Maybe not a series anyone really knows about, but a fun series. And he's won 4 times in 3 years in a row from 2017 to 2019. So he's got speed, and he seems to be getting to terms with this open wheel car very quickly. And if that happens, he's a serious threat for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's go to Meyer Shank.
This was one of the most disappointing teams last year, let's be honest. And I mentioned this, and I like this phrase. It seems like they're riding the wave of helping Elio win his 4th Indy 500 for far too long. Now, part of this is because they have a technical alliance with Andretti. And Andretti, as we covered last week, took a big step back last year. If Andretti takes a step up this year, so should Meyer Shank, even if they're driving at the same level. However, Elio Castroneves was kind of last year. He did 7th at the 500, which, all eyes are going to be on him anytime he sets foot in the city of Indianapolis for the rest of his driving career, trying to get his 5th. Whether that happens or not, he's running a full-time campaign and should be able to put up decent numbers across the board. And he was really okay. He only finished 4 spots ahead of 22nd, which kind of puts you at risk to lose that leadership circle funding, which is really crucial in the IndyCar series. Simon Pagenaud in the 60 car, he had a podium at the Wet and Wild Indy GP, but that seemed more like a fluke than something he could build on, which is weird because when Jack Harvey was there in 2021, that 60 car was very competitive at many rounds, and nearly won a couple races. So to see that team regress last year with a new full-time driver and Elio stepping up full-time was very odd. But if they feel more comfortable this year, and their cars are quite frankly better with Andretti taking this planned step forward and what appears to be a step forward, they should be more competitive this year. And honestly, it's not an unreasonable expectation for expecting Simon Pagenaud at least to win a race this year. And if he doesn't, I would call that a disappointment. Elio, a little bit older, a little bit rough around the edges than he used to be. Expecting a win maybe is too much, but some top 5s, challenging for some podiums, all that would be a step up from last year.
Yeah. It'll be an interesting thing to see what Meyer Shank is able to do this year. Another team that I think would like to see a big time improvement in 2023 is the Rahal Letterman Lanigan team.
Absolutely. So Graham Rahal returns to number 15. Jack Harvey and Christian Lundgaard have swapped rides. So Lundgaard is now in the famous Hy-Vee number 45, famous for 1 year, but everyone heard about it thanks to Hy-Vee's fantastic sponsorship. And Jack Harvey now on the number 30. Those are the full-time entrants, and Catherine Legg will drive the number 44 in the 500, which I'm very excited about. She should have had a full-time ride, but the Lotus engine sucked in 2012, which is really disappointing.
We brought that up when Catherine was on a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's just such an unfortunate situation because she's very talented. So excited to see her in Indianapolis. Let's hope we can keep her around for a while. But yeah, Rahal has a brand new facility in Zionsville, Indiana, the northern Indianapolis suburb, and they want to fill it with trophies. Last year was not a great campaign by any means for Rahal. Graham Rahal did not finish in the top 10 in the championship, and Jack Harvey in the 45 Hy-Vee car finished 22nd, which was the last leadership circle. Almost got beat by Jimmy Johnson, who, as we covered last week, fulfilled his lifelong dream of driving IndyCar, but maybe not as competitive as one would hope. So barely beating Jimmy Johnson in IndyCar, not a great sign for your full-time campaign. So hopefully switching Jack Harvey and Christian Lundgaard. Christian Lundgaard was a bright spot and won Rookie of the Year last year, and is fantastic at the Indy road course, which happens twice on the schedule this year. But Rahal really needs to take a step up. Graham Rahal, he's been in the league for so long, and he always feels like he's on the cusp of something great, and he only ends up good, which is fine. But I really think this could be like one of his last full-time campaigns where he can really mount a fight, because he's getting up there, and I think he's going to want to get more involved in running the team. So watch Graham Rahal this year. This could be a make or break year for him. And then Christian Lundgaard in the 45. As I mentioned, Hy-Vee just kind of like rescued Iowa Speedway from turning into a landfill or something, it feels like. And they want to see their car doing well, or they could be shopping around to different teams. So Christian Lundgaard is probably that guy over Jack Harvey. But everyone on that team had a lot of changes last year. So this year, moving into a new facility, I checked again, another plug for Nathan Brown in the Indy Star. There's a really nice feature on that new facility and kind of the new mentality they're having for 2023. So if that's working, expect them to be dramatically improved. If not, expect changes in the offseason.
Absolutely. All right. And now let's go to the final team, a team that expects to compete and expects to win every single race and the Indy 500 and the championship. Of course, I'm talking about Team Penske.
And why not, right? They won with Joey Logano in NASCAR last year and Will Power in the IndyCar Championship. First time a team's done both in the same season, which is incredible. And they were very under the radar. Scott Dixon got very hot at the end of last year for Ganassi, but they were close to having a 1-2-3 in the championship. All three cars sweeping the top three spots in IndyCar, which is just incredible. Joseph Newgarden, according to the Bovada Sportsbook, is the IndyCar Championship favorite for this year. And that makes sense. He's finished runner-up 3 years in a row, which is impressive, but also incredibly frustrating for a guy like Joseph that just wants to win and has speculated that he thinks a 10-win IndyCar season is still possible in this era. And I don't disagree with him. I think it is. And he'd be one of the few guys in the paddock capable of doing it, because he can snap it on at St. Petersburg and keep that energy all the way through to Laguna Seca. I don't even think Scott Dixon can do that, because Scott Dixon tends to peak near the end of the season, which is usually what you need to win a championship. Will Power, returning off of his championship campaign last year, should be very strong. One of the big storylines last year was Will Power's new, calm, focused mentality, and it worked, didn't it? He finished in the top 5 the first 5 races, great consistency, almost on the podium the first 5 races. He's just very strong, and his kind of mental refocus last season was exactly what he needed. And there's no reason he can't continue to keep setting the IndyCar pole record every race he goes out to, which he has sole possession of now, beating Mario Andretti last year, and keep winning races and keep fighting for a championship. And Scott McLaughlin, the number 3 car, might be my favorite pick to win the title this year. It's probably a little too early to say that prediction, but if I'm picking a preseason favorite, Scott McLaughlin's my guy. He was very fast last year, and just it didn't come together at some races, but like minimal races, he's very fast. If you watch his supercar performances from the past, which anyone should do, they're just incredible. And the fact that he's very close to putting together those kinds of seasons in IndyCar is very exciting for everyone involved in the IndyCar series. I think Scott McLaughlin is your favorite, and I don't think it's unreasonable to expect Penske to sweep the top 3 spots again this year. But the inter-team battles there are going to be perfect. Just fantastic motor racing content. And then their attempt to fend off Ganassi, McLaren, and Andretti, that's all going to be fantastic. But Penske is by and large the favorite.
Okay. Before we get to predictions and the season itself, let's talk about the 2 manufacturers. What do you expect out of both Honda and Chevrolet this year?
Yeah, so Honda's had a leg up in Indianapolis, which is kind of like the ideal track, right? Testing performance and fuel saving. I expect Chevy to still be strong across the board. The manufacturers championship is going to come down to the other Honda teams. Chevy had their lunch last year. Ganassi was the only Honda team that really could show up every weekend and be competitive. Think Andretti, Rahal, Meyer Shank. Those are all teams that we really were disappointed with last year. They all have Honda engines, and sometimes it doesn't feel like the IndyCar grid is as determined by engines as maybe Formula One is, but I see a pattern here. Honda needs to focus a lot of energy into their other teams other than Ganassi, and really kind of figure out how can we make those teams more competitive. Because Chevy with Penske and just across the board seemed to have it last year. Apart from the 500, which Ganassi was so fast at, that was theirs to lose. That's going to be the other flip side of this. Is I think Chevy's the favorite for the for the season championship, and I think Honda is still probably the favorite for the 500. But if Chevy can take a leg up, and think back to 2019 when Simon Pagenaud swept the whole month of May, and kind of regain that energy, they could actually be a threat this year.
Yeah. Okay, so now we did the two manufacturers. What do you think about Firestone? How do you think they'll do this year?
Some exciting developments with Firestone. One of the longest term partnerships in American motorsports, apart from Goodyear and NASCAR, is Firestone and the IndyCar Series, and they keep developing some really exciting sustainability initiatives. So for this year, all of the street course races will feature the Guale tire, which is a more sustainable American-grown rubber derived from a new kind of plant, which is very exciting. That will be at every street course race. And then the other exciting development is at Gateway this year, there will be an alternate tire for the oval for the first time ever. So I'm very fascinated to see how that works, because I think for the longest time we've heard that soft tires don't really work on ovals, and like that's not going to work. So I'm excited to see if it works. I would be shocked if we ever see it at a place like the 500. But over the next couple of years, I know IndyCar folks are very much looking for new ovals to try. I would look at Homestead, and I would look at maybe some of the places NASCAR has kind of abandoned, like Kentucky or Chicagoland. Some of those places could be very exciting. And even for a place like Texas that has kind of been turned into this 1.5 groove style racetrack, adding that alternate tire compound makes those races almost instantly exciting, since every team's going to have to run that soft tire that falls off really quickly at least once in the race. So seeing it at Worldwide Technology Raceway is going to be very exciting. But I'd expect more of the same from Firestone. They kind of have it figured out, and they keep putting together really good tires.
And of course, when they don't use that new tire compound, obviously they'll still use the black tires, and of course the Firestone red tires as well. So
yes, that is correct.
Also another new thing this year is there's a new fuel as well.
There is. So IndyCar is switching from Speedway fuel to Shell this year, and it's 100% renewable fuel derived from corn and other sources. But that's very exciting. In my day job, I've been able to really talk to some folks in IndyCar about their sustainability initiatives, and it's really breathtaking. In fact, Indianapolis Motor Speedway is now the only venue in the world to be registered as a sustainable venue by the sustainability. I forget the exact name of it. We'll have to include it in the description or something. But they're the only venue in the world to be registered by the leading determiner of sustainable sports, which is really exciting to have that in a motorsport series, because that's not the first place you think of. But yeah, 100% renewable fuel from Shell is going to be very exciting. And drivers say it impacts performance not at all. So it is a lateral move, which is exactly what you need in this kind of situation. It's not going to burn off faster. It's not going to make weird fuel economy situations. It is a plug and play situation, and that's just very exciting for the world, honestly.
I think so. And of course, as we kind of transition to a new way we travel from place to place, it might be interesting to see what it can do. So yeah, but also the overlook for the series this year as a whole. What are we expecting from IndyCar?
From the organization itself?
Yes.
Yeah, I think big themes to look out for is the increase in the marketing budget. I think there's already a market increase, which is really exciting to see. You're going to see more about IndyCar this year, which is very exciting for me, kind of a passionate IndyCar follower. They're going to start before every race weekend. They're going to have a national ad campaign on channels you've never seen the IndyCar series advertised before, which is really exciting. Look for rumors about new tracks, like I mentioned. There are always street circuits and really exciting ideas for downtown circuits that pop up. So look for those rumors to pop up and entertain those as well. But I'm really looking for ovals. IndyCar wants more ovals, and they want to find the right fit. I think Homestead, Miami would be a fantastic fit for the IndyCar series, and they should look at that very closely. And as I mentioned, Chicagoland, Kentucky,
Michigan.
Phoenix, Michigan, Michigan would be fantastic. As it's now going to be the last 2-mile. Now it's going to be the last 2-mile oval in the United States.
Yes.
Which I have some theories about how we can fix Texas Motor Speedway. Just make it like Auto Club.
Yeah.
But for now, there's only one more 2-mile track in the U.S., and I think Roger Penske should consider moving IndyCar to Michigan and having that Detroit street circuit, which is exciting. That's the other big news, is that Detroit is moving from Belle Isle to downtown Detroit. It looks like a more 90-degree angle circuit, but for people in the region, it's a throwback to what it used to be back when Formula One was there for a couple of years, and it was downtown around Renaissance Center for so many years. So that'll be exciting to see. But the main themes for the IndyCar organization this year is you're going to hear more about it, including the new documentary through Vice airing on the CW, 100 Days to Indy. That seems like it'll be very interesting.
Yeah.
You're going to hear more about it, and you're going to see it in more places. And another rumor to look out for in terms of tracks, the Juncos Canapino relationship is Argentinian based, and there have been rumors that IndyCar is looking to capitalize on that and have a race in Argentina sometime soon.
Yeah.
So not absolutely reporting anything. The rumors have been out there, but keep looking into that, because that could be really exciting.
Absolutely. I mean, remember they ran a race in Sao Paulo about a decade ago too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, who knows where they could go? I mean, they could go back to Motegi in Japan, like they
That'd
did.
be wonderful. Yeah.
So we'll have to keep eyes on that. All right, we do have a race this weekend in St. Pete, of course. Not just for IndyCar. Indy Next is also there, and of course, all the two highest rungs in the USF Pro Championships, USF Pro 2000 and USF 2000. Yes, I got all of those correct.
Yes,
So,
good job.
yes. Also, GT World America will also be there as well. And of course, everyone's favorite racing series, the Mazda MX-5 Cup. If you have not seen that series, you need to. It is pure entertainment.
Electric.
They actually get the day started at on Saturday at 7:55 a.m. To get it going in St. Pete. Okay, so I put all my IndyCar predictions out on Twitter, but let's just do this for fun. Let's go with Indy Next. Who do you got there?
Oh, let me pull up the grid. This is my bad, is that I can't name all the Indy Next drivers. I know you have had, if you all need to catch up on Indy Next, I know Casey's your guy. He has been interviewing the drivers. He's your guy. I need to do a better job there. But let's take a look at the grid. I think Jamie Chadwick is a very exciting prospect, obviously, coming over from the W Series. If she comes out with speed tomorrow, I don't see any reason why she can't win this weekend. There's lots of new faces. There's more grid spots, and it should be a very exciting and hopefully more competitive championship this year. But Jamie Chadwick is a talent. And in the DHL Andretti Indy Next car, my bad. Jamie Chadwick is my pick. If she comes out strong, if not, someone like Daniel Frost could show up. Any of those HMD drivers could be very fast as well.
There are 9 of them, so
yeah.
I'm going to go with Christian Rasmussen from the HMD camp. I think a lot of them were strong in testing, but I think a lot of I'd also watch out for those 2 Juncos cars too. They were very strong in testing as well. And then of course we have a new team, Cape Motorsports, a team that maybe not a lot of people are familiar with. And if you followed USF 2000 over the years, they dominated that championship. Of course, they won their last championship when they were USF with Michael D'Orlando, who's of course now in USF Pro 2000. So I think Rasmussen takes it, but I think this is probably the most competitive Indy Next field that I've seen in a very, very, very long time.
It's very exciting. I'm excited to see that develop.
Yeah, I am too. Especially if Jamie Chadwick can pick up a few wins, that is going to be major implications for that, and see where. Yeah. And definitely it'll be interesting to see where that can go. All right, well, let's get to the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, which of course kicks off the 2023 IndyCar Series season. Who do you got for that one?
Scotty. Not that Scotty. Scott McLaughlin. He won last year, and that was kind of the kickoff to his sophomore campaign. Like, I'm here and I'm good. And if I'm going to pick him for the championship, I don't think there's any reason why he can't win this weekend. The Penske cars are fast, and there's a lot of weekends where it's just going to be a battle of themselves and them staying out of trouble. And in the IndyCar series, it's hard to stay out of trouble. So don't make that like, oh, I don't want to watch. No, it's hard to stay out of trouble. But I think if Scott McLaughlin runs a clean race, he could very easily run away with this weekend. Kyle Kirkwood, I'm very excited to see what he does this weekend, moving over to the 27 car, as well as Alexander Rossi. Because Rossi can be fast on these street circuits as well. But I think Scott McLaughlin is my pick for the weekend if he comes out strong. And I want Kyle Kirkwood or Rossi to challenge, but it could be a Penske weekend because it's hard to come out of the off season sharp as attack, and Penske is one of the few that can do that in any league.
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the Penske camp. I'm going to go with Joseph Newgarden. I really think that, as you've said, we could see a 10-win season in IndyCar. We really could. And I think that, honestly, I think he'd be probably, as of right now, and obviously we could, who knows? I mean, Rossi can rip off 10 wins, or hell, Colton Herta for that matter. And there's obviously others that can do it. Maybe Pato could too. But I think Joseph Newgarden and that two team really have turned on the wicker the last few years. And I think this kicks off. I think, and of course, I also picked Joseph Newgarden to win the championship. So I'm going to go with the two team this weekend at St. Pete to kick off the year. But yeah, I think Scotty Mac's going to be one to watch. I'd keep an eye on Marcus Armstrong too. I really like what the team is doing. And Callum Ilott, as I've heard a lot of people talk about him, having a possible big year for Juncos. It'll be interesting to see because Juncos is now 2 cars. So that's also going to be a big impact in there. And the other team I'm very interested in seeing is Andretti Autosport. It's no secret they did not have a good year. And I'm always very interested to see what that team is going to do. Because I don't even know how they got through that year.
Teammates were fighting. It was all kinds of chaos.
Yeah, I know, right? And then the other one I'm watching is how that 10 team operates this year. Yeah, that and see so many storylines heading into IndyCar. So it's definitely going to be fun to see. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week. It's a big major week in motorsports, of course, and a big major Sunday because, of course, F1 also kicks off the season. They'll be at 10 a.m. ESPN. IndyCar will be at noon on NBC, and I think at 12:30. And then, of course, NASCAR at Las Vegas this weekend as well. Of course, I'll keep you updated on all the feeder series, as well as there, of course, also on this channel, as well as Grid Network on Monday with the Encore show. So, all right, we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you to preview Texas in about a month.
Yeah, there's a little gap there, but then it really picks up the rest of the season.
Oh yeah,